I'm one of the co-founders at Togglehead. I'm here to moderate today's esteemed panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just let everybody introduce themselves before we start off the questioning. Today's topic is how do we foster brand loyalty through our communities. You guys want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Varun Oberoi. I head marketing at Nissin Foods. That's a Japanese company with brands like Top Ramen, Nissin Cup Noodles, and Geiki Korean Noodles. That's actually the company that invented instant noodles way back in the 1950s. And we've been in India for almost 30 years.
Hi everybody, I am Pooja Menon. I am part of Aditya Birla Health Insurance, part of the Aditya Birla Group as we all know it. I take care of digital marketing, product and brand marketing for the company, and we've been in existence for about 8 years now, and a very fast-paced industry and a very fast-paced growth is what we have seen over the last few years. We're excited to share our thoughts here on communities today. Thanks.
Hi guys, I'm Dhriv. I'm looking at digital and media for Kellogg's. Kellogg's, or Kellanova as we call it, has brands like Chocos, Muesli, Pringles, so on and so forth. I have done a couple of stints before this at L'Oreal, some at Mattel Toys before. Happy to be here, try and share and learn from you guys as well.
Hi guys, I'm Dhruval Doshi. I lead digital marketing for Tata.ev. This is the EV business for Tata Motors. We're a very young company. We got founded in 2020. Yeah, it's a startup. It's as fast-paced and excited to be here to exchange notes with you guys.
Super, great. We have a really talented panel and a varied industry set list here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Varun. I'd like to pose this question to Varun. So from a consumer packaged goods perspective, how crucial is community building to foster loyalty, the keyword being loyalty over here, for a brand like Nissin Foods? And what unique strategies have you guys employed to achieve this?
It's of course desirable because, sorry to say, customer loyalty is almost dead. So we are living in a consumption economy. Consumers are more experimental, and at the same time they are skeptical of brand claims. But we do know consumers purchase basis affinity and aspiration. And communities are a great platform to address either one of these two objectives. I don't believe community marketing is only for high value or high involvement products. But at least the brand should be quote unquote high on energy. Of course, not every brand can afford or be in a place to create their own community. But wherever they cannot do that, they can always leverage communities which their consumers are part of. Right? So that's probably the ultimate step in marketing in a lot of ways. Yeah? We start with making a connection with the consumer, then we engage them with a lot of content, and when we reach at a community level, that's the really stuff of dreams, right? Because then your consumer is really living the brand and not just loving it. Right? That's the next level. To your second question on what strategies we implement, allow me to explain the process by giving the example of our own brand, Cup Noodles, which as is self-explanatory, it's noodles in a cup. Right? So it's a brand name, right? It's generic to the category. Now, obviously, the format we realized is loved by gamers, the gaming community, because they can play and eat at the same time. Right? So, having said that, it does not end there. Right? So when we were targeting gamers as a community, and gaming community in India is massive, right? So I needn't talk about that. But more importantly, we need to know where the brand stands and acknowledge where it stands within the community. Is it core to the community, as in it's running that community? Or is it ancillary to it, as in it is enabling those things that are running that community? Or is it on the periphery, part of the lifestyle? So we are not at the core, where probably a Lenovo or a Dell would be, right? Because they make gaming equipment. We are not in the, we're not the ancillary part of it. That would be probably a gaming chair, where it would come in. We are in the periphery, right? So we are the food, maybe alongside a sneaker or an anime or music.
More
More lifestyle. So when we did that, now from that vantage point of view, we create content to engage them. We and of course spur brand advocates to create their own. Then it becomes a two-way process. Then we create multiple touch points, offline and online. We are part of gaming events. We sponsor teams and players, and we associate with the gaming companies and brands or influencers who would spread the word about a brand. Right? But I think the cherry on the top comes when we actually launch a product specifically targeted at gamers. We've already done that internationally for the brand. Last year, Japan launched a gaming variant with ingredients like ginseng to give gamers that energy while they are gaming.
Wow.
Right? I think that's the final step where sort of the whole flywheel gets completed, and then you can move from merely engagement to advocacy and having a proper conversation with your core consumers.
Super insightful, Varun. Thank you so much. It's very important how brands are utilizing key opinion leaders, and they may or may not necessarily be influencers, but they are opinion leaders within the overall industry. Very interesting to see. So over to Pooja. Varun, I'll come back. So Pooja, trust and long-term relationships are key in the health insurance sector primarily. So how can digital communities help build that trust, or contribute to customer retention for Aditya Birla Health Insurance?
So first of all, a very interesting subject for us at Aditya Birla Health Insurance, or ABHI, ABI as we fondly call it, because since day one, we have been invested in creating communities. We launched when in 2017, right? 2016, in fact. Since then, we've been invested in creating communities around our purpose, and that's where it gets a little different. Aditya Birla Health Insurance is in the business of health insurance, for sure. But our purpose is empowering people to lead healthier lives. Right? What it means is we, as an organization, as a brand, provide you, the customer, with tools, offerings, features, and I'll speak a little about it later, for them to get empowered to then move from point A to B to C in their health journey. And we all know how invested we are in our health, right? Health is not just an individual subject, as we also call it in our organization. It's a family subject. It's a community subject. If you're invested in your health, you just don't do it yourself. You want to brag about your achievements. You want to ask your mom, I have a cold. What do I have for that? You will even ask your doctor, right? So it's a subject where there are a lot of conversations that happen offline as well as online. So it's very ripe for community plucking, if I may call it that. Right? So since day one, we've been doing that. And in fact, what we feel is that, and rather what I feel is, and I was just discussing this with my colleague when I came here, since we're talking trust and long-term relationships, right? It's very difficult to earn trust in this fickle world these days where Varun also said customer loyalty is dead, right? So how do you create trust? How do you get customers to retain with you year on year on year? Insurance is a game of renewal, right? Acquiring is not enough. You've got to nurture the customer to live the whole 9 yards with you. So what do we do there? There are 3 ways you can build communities, right? At least that's what we feel. One is where the brand creates a community and your users and the brand engage in it, participate in it. 2 is when you co-create communities with your brand, with your customers, sorry. And then, of course, both of you all sustain it together. 3 is the biggest compliment a customer can give you. It's when the customer creates communities and then decides whether the brand can decide whether they get involved in it or not, right? That's where a lot of even your two-wheeler heavy terrain motoring brands do, right? They tech brands, right? Customers create communities, the brand doesn't. So that's
or celebrities also.
Sorry?
Celebrities also.
Exactly.
Or four-wheelers also.
Absolutely. So that is where customer retention, you will not be chasing customer retention, but rather it will be chasing you, right? And a very beautiful example of what we have done there is we have this proposition which shocks a lot of people when we even talk about it. So I want to talk about it here. And a lot of insurance players are doing it, but we were the pioneers in it, ABHI. You walk 10,000 steps in a day or burn 300 calories for about a certain number of days in a year. There's a calculation behind it. There's a science behind it. And if you do it religiously, you get the chance to earn your premium back and the entire premium back on your renewal. So essentially, you're going premium free over a period of time. You're just paying GST. Basically, that's the science behind it. And so what a lot of customers came, they started telling us that, okay, I wanted my premium back. It was a financial benefit, so I started walking. But eventually, a lot of customers, because it's a consistent activity, they started saying we forgot the financial benefit, and they started walking. They involved their spouses, kids, parents, and that became sort of a revolution, of a mini revolution for us of sorts, right? These customers came to us and told us we are benefiting, not just the premium back piece, but some of them came and told us I have left my diabetes behind. One person, in fact, reversed their asthma. People lost their weight and so on and so forth. And we created a campaign using these brand ambassadors, our customers as our own brand ambassadors, early last year, in fact. And that gave us so much traction because customers don't want, these days, I mean, like it or hate it, customers don't want the brand to talk to them. Customers want other customers to talk to them about the brand. So that is what our endeavor was, and really paid results. And we are seeing a lot of improvement in terms of customer retention for us. So that would be my 2 bits on this piece.
Wow, quite a interesting campaign. Huh? Walk 10,000 steps and get your premium back. So I think a lot of brands are copying that now also.
Yes.
I just recently saw an HDFC campaign for the Apple Watch, where if you consistently walk 15,000 steps, you know, the entire watch is free over a course of a year. So great ideas on the table. Dhriv, my question is now to you. So considering Kellanova and you know the multiple brands that you all have, you all must be having a funnel where you all create content on multiple levels. So how can influencers really engage communities throughout the funnel? Is there like some insight that you and your brands can share with us?
Yeah, interesting question. And, I think influencer marketing as a whole earlier had, you would use influencer marketing in the middle of the funnel, right, for consideration. And that's how it sort of started in. But I don't think that's the reality today, right? I think influencer marketing can be used through the funnel. And very simply put, if you are engaging, with influencer marketing, you have an influencer come in, they create the content, you get your organics in. But then by the end of it, you can do a collab with them, you can run partner ads or BCA on that content, right? And then give that a little bit more mileage, right? And a gentleman over here just said, right, you got 4 million views. Are they organic or inorganic is the question, right? So influencer content, at least how I'm looking at it, right? Your TVCs are providing the core message, but influencer content is actually giving you the hands and legs to your core message. And then that also needs to play up in the top of the funnel, right? So that's how you get it, right? You get your influencer content and run BC ads. But at the same time, how is it cutting through at the bottom of the funnel is by doing shop now ads, right? The same ads or the same content pieces can now have for you maybe enroll or download the app. For us, maybe shop now, right? Or for you, maybe, throwing people back to the dealers, right? But that's how influencer content is cutting through, right? And I think for at least CPG industry, there is this new product that is a part that's come in is, Blinkit and Meta have a collab,
yes.
right? So you have something called collaborative ads. Now you could use influencer marketing with BCA that has a shop now that is linked to a collab or that is linked to the catalog of Blinkit and get full
With
funnel
a call
data.
to action, it's just
right. So you see how
funnel.
influencer marketing is actually cutting through the funnel, and that's
great.
how
So right
we
from
use it.
discovery to sales, you have that entire funnel covered.
That's
Super.
correct, and more importantly, you get that data if you are in link with that collaborative ads Blinkit piece. Yeah.
Super. Great insight. I'll come back to you, Dhriv. My next question actually is to Dhruval. Considering Tata Motors and the entire EV sector, so how important are online communities in influencing purchase decisions, primarily and fostering brand advocacy, especially with the rise of the entire EV industry?
Yeah, extremely important. Short answer. But I'll elaborate a little bit more in terms of how they influence, right? It depends on which community you're talking about. So the way we look at it, you get influenced through auto journalists or auto influencers. Then you get influenced by your peers. Like a car is typically bought through people, 5 people you'll ask next to you saying that you bought this car. Does it have these specs and whatnot? But that's for the the ICE cars, as we call them, internal combustion engines. For EV, the questions are completely different. In EV, people don't ask saying that is this car good. The question is, should I buy an EV in the first place? So in EV space, we're actually building the category because people don't know if, now is the time to buy the EV, which it is, by the way, clarifying.
Subtle.
Yeah. But the thing is that, so who influences you at this point is critical from the category point of view, from the model point of view, because that also is important. So we have the way we look at it, and we look at our communities, we look at obviously the influencers, we look at auto influencers or other category influencers, but we also look at, subtle brag again, but we also have the largest owner community in the country at this point. Tata Motors contributes to, in terms of active owners, we contribute to more than 80% of owner community of EVs in the country. So that's massive, and we look at them as our large online community too. And we're running several programs, and these programs thrive on several touch points, from WhatsApp to websites to portals and apps and so on. So we look at them as our influencers and our communities, and we leverage that significantly. And then of course, across all these communities, you cut content, you use them across the funnels like he was saying, and it really helps. And the reason why it's very important is that at a superficial level, what they do is they lend credibility, because it's somebody else who's already using a car is really sharing his or her experience. Second is that it also allays a lot of fear. Like Pooja was saying, that people don't want to listen to brands anymore. They want to listen to some real experiences. And then even we do this, is that we do a lot of collab ads. So influencers will put content out, we have our own communication, we put a blended video of that and then use that as lower funnel ads. And it works like a charm, because ultimately, and Meta and Google propagate this a lot, right? We've seen uplifts in how that has really contributed to our KPIs. So across the funnel, across the communities. By the way, and sorry, subtle flex again, but Tata EV has the largest number of fan pages in the country across models. And that is the final compliment that you
Organic, I hope.
Absolutely organic. Absolutely organic. However, we do have a program that encourages them to do more. So there are small drives that we encourage, and we facilitate that in whichever manner. So we'll facilitate like a breakfast around that and so on. So there are a bunch of things that we do to propagate this a lot more. Rather than paying money or media money, we figure out ways to let this thrive, because the only way to build the category is to build it through the lifestyle that people are actually living out, rather than giving them marketing messages.
Very interesting to use your existing consumer base to actually build referrals and drive them as your brand ambassadors to create loyalty.
Yeah, I think the category is also such that when you enter, you become a brand evangelist automatically, because you've actually 2% of, like you said, India. And
yeah. And it's not like an impulsive buy. It's not a cup noodles.
It's an extremely.
That's why you'll be an evangelist.
Correct.
Way more, right? Like
True.
you bought into the new category of EVs.
Yeah, like the way we've seen it is that it's apart from the monetary buy-in into the community, it's also a social buy-in into the community, because you've sort of said that I belong to the EV lifestyle, or the lifestyle that encompasses an EV is a very big part of that. So it's a social buy-in, it's a monetary buy-in and everything. So then it becomes a huge flex for people to sort of call it out themselves, and we're just propagating that.
In the States, about I think this started close to a decade ago, I think, when the Prius launched. And the Prius had a average consumer persona, which I think was built by the Prius community. But then I think slowly it became a meme. But good to hear that the Indian community of EVs is also massively growing. So great. So I'll move back to Varun. I have another question, and this is actually in relation to the rise of short format video content. And the fact that the consumer preferences are always evolving. How is Nissin adapting to this content strategy, and in order to maintain connections and to drive engagements through the community? Is that something that you all are looking at aggressively?
Yeah, so we look at it in a way that the long story is the brand story. The short videos, what we call it, reels or whatever, these are the narratives in between to tell the stories. And we have to break down the long story into short narratives because of the attention span, right? And we've discussed that a lot. So how does that each narrative build on to that long story, and how much does it do to build to the community is the way we see it. Right? Also, what's important here is to understand why do you have that community, or why are you targeting that specific cohort through influencers or narratives or whatever? Is it a shop where you find a group of consumers to sell your stuff to? It's not. Right? Is it a content marketplace where you can tell that community that we are all of this and some more? No, it isn't. Right? Or is it a third place where consumers can just hang out, right? Which probably the auto companies do extremely well. Like you mentioned, right? You're not there to sell or hear. You're there to listen in. You're there to have conversations. Being confident enough that it will eventually lead to better brand equity and eventually lead to sales.
Super. I think that covers.
No, I think, I'd like to add on a little bit, and I absolutely echo what you're saying. But we also try and use short form content as the hands and legs, like I said, right? The core content, and then you have more hands and legs. But more importantly, we are designing now for short form content. And I think one of the KPIs to look at is the average view time, right? The average watch time. And you typically see it's about 12 seconds, 10 seconds. And of course matters, differentiates by category. But I think it's important to see even that and where you want to enter your brand in. Even in that small 30 seconds, you really still need to optimize. And that's the new norm.
So the quick fix solution nowadays is to do something really crazy, associate
Attention
with
grabbing.
Yes, and so that it goes with some random animated character or influencer without taking names, and it goes crazy viral. It does a lot of good internally. Let me say that way. Okay. And everybody internally also notices that and gets that assurance that your brand is being talked about. But again, the question becomes: is it adding to your long-term story, or is viability equal to being talked about, or are we talking about memorability after that? What's the eventual impact? I clearly don't believe short-term video means that there should only be a short-term impact, and we can ignore the long-term impact on the brand. All of it matters. We don't subscribe to the philosophy that any publicity is bad. Good publicity. It is not. Right? It subliminally impacts the consumer's mind. So,
especially in the food
cautious.
Industry.
Especially in the food industry, yes.
So what you're trying to say is also that if it doesn't fit with your brand imagery, doesn't fit with your brand philosophy, what is it that you really want your brand to stand for in the...
Yes. So I can use influencers to push the narrative, go a little crazy, which my brand normally cannot say in a regular narrative when I am saying it. So I can let them go free, but don't go as crazy that it starts being anti-brand and against my brand ethos. Somewhere we need to pull those reins, which is what a lot of big brands do. A lot of startup brands do not care because they are more desperate for attention. So it works for them.
Understood. Great, thanks. Pooja, when it comes to the entire BFSI, the insurance industry as a whole, the big question is the usage of influencers. And how do you see the role of influencers in your industry? At the same time, sticking with ethical guidelines of sorts, right? Are we not crossing a line? How do you create that overall boundary? And what are your views from a company standpoint?
So see, when we also hire influencers, there are a lot of thumb rules that we use, a lot of guardrails that we use, etc. And we are a highly regulated industry, right? We are regulated by the IRDA. So we are all clear as to what we can't do, and there are certain set of rules that is already in place for us. So that ensures at least that everybody toes the line. That not just that, but even our conscience ensures that we don't toe the ethical line anywhere. And specifically for us, because we even talk health. So it is very important that every content piece that we even collaborate with the influencer on is vetted by multiple experts, internal, external, the whole hog, right? We also in fact have not just influencer, I'll just take a little bit of time to say that we also have a blog called Active Living where we have so much content that we put, but customers come and tell us that only if it is vetted by experts and doled out by experts is when they will really pay attention to it. And that's what our focus has been for the last many years, right? And coming back to the other piece in the influencer piece, one is that the brand fit piece we just spoke of. It's important in the influencer arena also. Does your brand as well as your target audience see a fit? Do they see eye to eye with the influencer selections you've made? That is one. Two is, we as a brand have never ever dictated content to the influencer. Okay, we always, and that is important in the insurance and health space both. And of course in the social arena, let the content creator or the influencer tell you what sort of content they want to generate. You just pitch to them what your brand is, what your product is, what the features are, and let them do the storytelling, right? That is point number 2. Point 3 is, we were just talking about it, in fact, backstage. We were saying that it's not just influencers you hire, and people touched upon that subject, you hire advocates. So what we do is, and customers are very intelligent these days. They are intelligent than most brands out there, right? So they will only listen to somebody if they see merit in it. That is one. So we as a brand also practice, we let the influencer or the advocate go through the experience of our product themselves. Only when they see merit in it, right? We tell them our brand story, right? Because the customer is not out there to listen to your product features. You don't listen to Apple because they're selling you a product. You listen to Apple because they're selling you a philosophy. They're selling you a very beautiful story. So customers are there to listen to your story. So explain to your advocate or your influencer what your story is. Let them weave that into their storytelling and then dish that content out to your customer. That is very important for us as a brand. And last but not the least, internal advocates. We are very proud to have a lot of internal advocates within the company itself because our purpose is health. We have 2 types of advocates. One is the expert advocates. We have a panel of health coaches, doctors, ourselves, who help our customers on their health journey. They are coaches who basically coach you if you have any conditions like diabetes, asthma, so on and so forth. So their objective is to make you healthier. So they become our internal advocates for the campaign. We are running a diabetes campaign right now where all content that is being put out is by our health coaches. Tips and tricks in order to not reach the stage where you have diabetes if you are a pre-diabetic, so on and so forth. That's one form of internal advocate. The second internal advocate is our employees. A lot of our employees have, in fact, after joining, we've seen a tremendous shift in how they, believe in health. And putting out their stories even helps us create, we've not touched upon this, but employer branding opportunities as well, right? So these 4 guardrails, rules or whatever is what we always follow when we work with content creators, influencers, stroke advocates, whatever it is that you call them.
Some great insights, and I think that really sheds some light on the fact that if your people who are putting out the message don't truly believe in your product or use your product, it's very hard to create loyalty for the people viewing your content. So I think that's a great point from Pooja. We'll quickly just, get one more question each. Dhruv, with regards to creating content, how important is vernacular language or regional content in fostering loyalty?
No, I cannot stress enough. It is definitely important to have a mix of regional and vernac being put in. I think this is no news, right? This is category hearsay. We know how vernacular content has been on the rise, but I think more than that, it's again relatability, right? It all goes back to how as a brand you're relatable to your audience, and if relatability comes from vernac language, yeah, so be it, right? It's like if you just the last example, and I was just the gentleman here was talking about jewelry and how every few kilometers that you go, the jewelry is different, right? Similarly, your way of talking, lehza, is different, right? And if you can, if you go to a Bangalore, the guy in Bangalore, you may not be able to relate to all the jokes. There will be some jokes that you may bouncer chala gaya, right? Like how? That's only because there is so much
Diversity.
and localized, right? So I think it's a part of the strategy to have regional content being placed, and vernac plays a very, very big role. Yeah.
Thanks. Dhruval, how important is digital platforms to create communities, to foster communities?
Yeah, we think that we want to follow the people or where the community is. So we don't plan saying that these are the channels that we're going to leverage for this kind of community. If we see that they're organically following, then we sort of channel out ourselves out there. For example, there are a lot of these Nexon EV communities that are on WhatsApp in the South. So we figure out a way to sort of encourage them on WhatsApp. Enable the admins or enable the people to sort of share more, do more, aid them, like I said, in drives and whatnot. in South, we also have the largest. I mean, we have 5 Tata.EV stores, EV exclusive stores. So we leverage those places as communities, epicenters for them to come and do whatever. So that's one way. The other way is that there are a lot of these, customers or owners who are doing 1 lakh plus kilometers across the country, and they're very scattered. So the way we keep in touch with them or engage with them is through our mobile app. Each car is connected vehicle. So you have an app where you can get access to a lot of things. So Tribe is an integral part of that. We also have a dedicated website, and a lot of our communication proactively goes out on WhatsApp again. On social media itself, we have like campaigns and programs running, Drive with Tata and so on, that encourage if you're taking a delivery of the car, post something and then we'll acknowledge and reciprocate. Or if you're taking a long drive or whatever, then so we're literally following our communities wherever they are, rather than us defining that this is where you need to congregate and then do something about.
So it's where's your community spending time, both online, offline, and then trying to intervene over there?
Yeah, it needs to be more organic to fuel them rather than create a guardrail where they need to come and do something about.
Super, great. One last bonus question, throwing it out to the panel. Anyone can take this up. But let's say a brand has built a certain amount of loyalty through its consumer base, through its content, and let's say some negative news comes out, right? How do brands counter that? Or let's say, how do they myth bust certain fake news about the brand, if any, which is probably damaging to their brand loyalty? And this is not specific to your brands, it's just agnostic. You all can just...
Perfect. No, because this is definitely one of the, and I think someone really spoke about this, right? Are we being ethical? Are the people who are really talking about things, are those guys experts or not? But because if you're not experts, then the brands will have to take the route of myth busting, like you already said, right?
Correct.
Myth busting is the only one way. Then you have to be able to, let's say, partner with authentic, credible sources, and then talk about all the things that may have been, let's say, de-influenced, right? And
someone coming from a point of authority.
Yeah, but it should also be credibility, right?
Yeah.
I mean, authority does not give you the right to talk about, let's say, nutritional stuff that unless you're not a nutritionist.
Correct.
Right? And if you're not, and if there is some content out there that may have garnered a lot of virality, so to say, the only one way left is to actually put facts on the table, which is myth busting. And if that means you have to partner with some authentic, credible sources to be able to put out some true content about what your brand is,
Sure.
That's the strategy you apply.
So like a nutritionist for food, a dermatologist for skin, those are more advocates coming from a point of, relevancy and authority. Super. Great. Thank you guys. And thanks to the panel for answering some really interesting conversations.
Thanks a lot.